Disclosure. Sober disclosure. Breezy's a slut.
And we like it in the butt.
Are you or someone you know looking for support in recovery? Taste Recovery is your go-to directory for sober resources. Whether you're searching for treatment centers or sober living communities, Taste Recovery connects you with the right tools and support to help you on your journey. With a user-friendly platform and a comprehensive list of resources, Taste Recovery makes finding the help you need easier than ever. Start building your path to a healthier, sober life today. Visit tasterecovery.com to find the resources that work for you. Taste Recovery, your first step to a lasting positive change.
Hi everyone, I'm Breezy.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we are
Sober
Disclosure.
And we're here with the fabulous Honey, the amazing helper of millions. I knew she would hate if I said that.
Trying to be a helper.
Trying to be a helper.
So humble.
Yes.
So humble. We love
So
that.
thank you for being here, honey.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I thought it would be such a good idea to have someone here that literally helped me through my whole sober journey. And I have a lot of memory of you and little things you've told me where it kind of just was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. And it helped me my whole sobriety. And I thought it'd be such a good idea for you to come on so then a lot of people can hear your wisdom and experience
and help
and
even more people.
And a little hope.
First things first, can you tell our listeners how much time sober you have?
I just had my birthday, so I'm an April Fool 1993. I just turned 32.
Ooh, oh, I like that. April Fool.
You got sober on the 1st of April?
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. I love that.
In fact, we have 20 birthdays in April at Yellowstone.
Oh, really?
No.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and because of Sundays, you guys all line up. All the women.
That's correct.
Yes.
So for people who don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself and kind of tell everyone what Yellowstone is?
We've been at Yellowstone. We started on Yellowstone Street, so it wasn't a creative endeavor to come up with a name. We knew Charlie Street was on Charlie Street, so we were Yellowstone and Yellowstone Street.
Yes.
We've been there for 25 years. We get kids off the street, kids out of jail, once in a while somebody from the top of the hill. But they all have problems with drugs and alcohol, and we try to help.
I love that.
And I remember people would say it's the last house on the block.
Yeah.
It's the last house on the block.
Yeah.
And now it's the first.
Well, it's still the place where they can't make it anywhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what made you want to start doing that?
Well, the kids were at my house. I'm a grandmother, so I say kids a lot. The kids were at my house, and my husband said, "There's too many panties and bras in here. We have to do something." And so we took the girls down to Yellowstone Street. I got a little house there, and Patty O, who was my sponsor, and she brought my sober sisters, and they started teaching us what to do, because all we knew how to do was just bring them in and put clothes on them.
Yeah.
And so it started out as like a women's only recovery
That's
home.
correct.
Yeah.
In fact, we've only had men, I think, for the last, 15 years?
Yeah, since 2007?
Yeah. I
7?
think you were one of the first.
I was one of, yeah. I think that the year before me was
The
the first, and I was the year after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had to say no to him a lot.
Yes.
Why is that?
And you can't go. Be still.
Be still. I always wanted to go do something.
Did you always want to hang out with the girls?
And I always wanted to hang out with the girls.
Uh-huh.
And they'd be like, you need to hang out with the boys.
Yeah.
Which is actually good, because then I got more comfortable talking to men.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to talk to girls. It was always learning something of the opposite of what you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which was good.
Yeah.
Which I'm doing right now.
That's why she's here.
How did Jimmy get you to do this? I'm curious.
Well, when he asked me for something, I say yes, because he said yes to so many things we've asked for over the years.
Oh my God.
why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's so cool.
Um,
What a special bond. Was this the first treatment center you went to?
I actually went to Able to Change in Laguna, and I had like a Medi-Cal. I didn't have good insurance, and they paid a little bit of it. I got in trouble, and they were gonna maybe sponsor me, but I didn't like it there. So they actually kicked me out
Able to
and
change.
told me to go to Yellowstone. And my mom could afford Yellowstone, and I think the first time she paid, it was very low, but she paid a little bit.
Probably hotel fees.
Yeah, for food and
Yeah.
to stay, but nothing more than that.
Mhm.
And I had friends that able to change.
And she had friends, yeah. And so you know what I told Honey? I said, "Can I stay here? I
Yeah.
don't want to go back there." And she said, "I don't know because they sent you here for a reason. I don't know what it was, but in the end, they said I could stay."
What was different between that program and this program?
In the 3 days I was supposed to be there, I learned more about the 12 steps than I ever did in the 2 months I was there.
And he heard no pretty often.
And I heard no pretty often. That's actually what I learned.
I love that she still remembers
Yeah.
like that.
Well, it happened
You.
4 or 5 times.
I know, but there's so many clients that
Oh, yeah,
go
there's
through
so
these
many
programs
clients.
that like even I can remember maybe like 10 people I went to treatment with
Yeah.
9.5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
hard to remember everyone.
Well, in the beginning, there was only Yellowstone.
It was only Yellowstone, yeah.
Yeah.
And I literally, it changed my life. I grew up there. I got there when I turned 18, and then I literally lived my whole life there
Hmm.
in trash bags, and now I have suitcases.
Hmm.
But
and Tyson was working there when you went
yeah, okay.
the
So
first time?
no,
Oh.
Tyson was later, years later. He was my intake person, and he still remembers my backpack because I had dildos, meth pipes, all these sexual things he never even heard of, and he was so uncomfortable that he's like, "I'm gonna have to just throw this whole thing away." And then he still tells me till this day, "Your backpack is probably the most rancid backpack ever," and I just didn't want to go through it. It was so
Good
funny.
for him.
I know.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. No, thank you.
So circling back, so your first year, how did you even, your first year of sobriety, was that your first time getting sober?
No. I was pretending to get sober, struggling to get sober, lying about getting sober. I would tell you I had 60 days and I couldn't count that many days. No, in 1990 I was 5150. In 1991 I was 5250, and that's where they get to make all the decisions. And then I met Patty O, and she showed me this book, and I said, "I'll read the book, but what else, have you got?" That was 90. That was just late 92, and then I got sober in 93 because they threw me out of that hospital. At the time, it was Mission Hospital now, where she
Just
died.
here down the street.
Yeah, where she
Okay.
died. But, they because I had cars and all that kind of stuff. And I just said, "I'll write you a bigger check." I could write the biggest, "No, it's time for you to go." And so my brother brought me one of my cars, and I wound up at Aliso State Beach, and Phil Collins was singing. I've been waiting for this moment all my life, and it struck me that I was sober. 75 days. It was the first time I realized I was sober, not just not having a drink or a drug, but I'd actually done all those terrible things they made me do in Genesis,
Yeah.
And they didn't care that I just read the book, And so what I did is I drove up PCH. First of all, I jumped in the water with all my clothes on, and no one cares in California. And then I went down PCH, and I saw all the smokers outside, and I said, "This must be a meeting." And it was Gucci. And
Wow.
I went in there, and there was not a seat. There were 300 people there, so I was leaving. And this guy comes up, and he says, "I can get you a seat." And I thought, he's the janitor. He knows about this stuff. And then he got up on the podium, and it was Dr. Paul.
Oh my God.
And he started talking
Wow.
about things I didn't
She said
understand.
the janitor.
Yeah.
That's funny. And so then when you went to your first meeting, did you go through a sober living? Did you stay home? What did Patty instruct you to do?
Was Gucci your very first meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it was. Actually, there was a meeting at the hospital, and
Mission Hospital.
it was Mission Hospital. Friday night was my first meeting. They let me out of locked doors, and that's why I went. We'll let you outside the locked door. And
was that the gay meeting? Because they had the gay meeting Friday night.
That's when it was.
Oh, yeah.
And then they asked if anybody wanted to share, and I raised my hand, and I said something profound, and then everybody applauded, and then this babbling idiot got up to the microphone. They applauded him the same way, and I said, "Wait a minute, I don't. These guys can't discriminate. I'm not going to this meeting anymore." You know.
They applaud everybody.
They applaud stupid people.
Yeah.
And he got sober before I did.
Do you know who that person is today?
I knew who he was for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you date him?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because, we would have dated him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so you went to Gucci, you sat down and you listened to the speaker.
And then I went over to the Newport Club from there that same night, and I finally talked somebody there into taking me into their place, which was kind of dingy and ugly and in South County, and had 16 beds and 3 bedrooms and 12 guys, which I like that part, and 4 girls.
We do too.
And I don't know if I can talk about drugs, but I had.
You could talk about whatever you want.
Well, I had cocaine slits, so if I cried, which was a lot, my nose bled. So I went in the bathroom, and there was blood all over the floor. It was pretty dramatic, and this guy bangs on the door, and he says, "Open the door." And I thought, boy, he's going to see something. And I opened the door, and he saw the blood on the floor, and he said, "Clean it up." And it was the first direction I ever took.
Wow.
Oh my God, can you talk about that story in that place where the girl had the big book and you didn't know what the big book was?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then she started writing, and then do you remember what story it was?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the same place?
Yes.
Can you tell that story?
Oh, probably not. It's been over 30 years. But I will tell you that I was extremely arrogant, and at the time I had a PhD from UCLA, so I thought it made me smarter than everybody. So when it was time for job search, I just said, all I have to do is make a phone call. In those days, there weren't cell phones, there were pay phones. I had a lot of quarters, and so I made the call, and UCLA said, "We'll hire you." And they were so relieved that I was going. And I said, "But I'll be late." And they said, 10 o'clock. The doors are locked at 10 o'clock, no matter who you think you are. The doors are locked. And of course, I hadn't put a lot of water or gas or anything in my car, and it was overheating coming back. And so it was about 10:20, and I'm pulling up at the front. I know they've locked me out, so I'm writing this horrible FU note. Look what you've done to me. You've ruined my life. And I just write this horrible note, and I go up and put it on the door, and the door was unlocked.
They left it unlocked.
And people over the years have said it was an accident, but I don't think it was an accident.
Oh.
I think they gave me 20 minutes I didn't deserve.
A grace period.
Yeah. They gave me 20 minutes, and I've been sober ever since.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a story right there. That's God.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. So you ended up at Gucci, and that's where you met your sponsor?
Or where did you meet Patty?
I met her at Mission Hospital, but she wasn't my first sponsor. My first sponsor gave me all the wrong direction, and I just was looking for somebody who was going to love me. And when she died of Alzheimer's, I knew she loved me, but she couldn't remember my name. And so I started telling everybody Patty O was my sponsor. And they'd say, "Wow, you have a great program," but I didn't tell Patty. And so I went down to St. George's one night. I said, "I need to tell you something. I've been telling everybody I know that you're my sponsor." She said, "I know that, honey. I've been sponsoring you from behind."
Wow.
That's how I got her.
Wow. That's incredible. You just brought up something really interesting that I would love to get into. You said your first sponsor gave you
Wrong direction.
Wrong direction.
She made me fold chairs. There were 67 chairs in the Newport Club, and then she made me do that for way too long, and then she made me stand out and shake hands at the end of the meeting, and I knew those people hadn't washed their hands, and I'm standing there, and this little old lady comes up as old as I am now, and she said, "You put your hand out to me," and I'm back, and my little Grinch of a heart kind of grew, and I thought, oh my God, this is how you stay sober. You put your hand out.
Yeah.
So I started putting my hand out at all the meetings I went to.
Wow.
That was my first step.
So why did you say wrong direction?
Well, I would call her and say, I'm having a panic attack. It's 10 o'clock. And she'd say, write it down and don't call me after 9.
It's the direction she didn't want to hear.
Yeah. And
in the time, right?
Yeah, and I remember calling her one time and saying, I'm ready to work my steps. She said, you're ready when I tell you.
Oh.
And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But I knew she loved me. I just didn't know it for a long, long time, you know.
Yeah.
And then my second sponsor was Patty. And now I'm with my third sponsor. And I was at Patty's memorial. I didn't know what to do with myself. And I just looked at the lady next to me with her beautiful red hair. And I said, I can't be unattended. And she's been sponsoring me ever since.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Was she also sponsored by Patio?
No, she's 43 years sober, and she talks more than I do.
So then she can keep up.
Well, she can, and I call her with my problems, and by the time she's through talking, I can't remember what they are.
That was good. I love that one.
That was good. So 32 years ago, what do you feel like your program looks like today versus 32 years ago?
Well, for me, it was much harder to get sober than to stay sober because I just do the things that I've learned, and I get to go to meetings, and I go to more meetings now, I think. That's probably not true because I lived at the Newport Club when I was new, but everything was a grind. Everything was tough. And I'm going to a meeting tonight that I'm very excited about because it's my sponsors meeting. I have friends there. I go to 6 meetings a week because something awesome's going to happen. Because I know something good's going to happen. Because Patty O used to say, when you go, no matter what happens at the end of the meeting, you feel better.
Yeah.
But now my experience is they're good meetings, better meetings, and awesome meetings. And I just don't want to miss the awesome.
Yeah.
And so I had an awesome meeting this week. And the guy was, he announced himself as very, very gay. And then he told incredible stories that were about all of us. And he was wonderful. So
Honey loves her gays.
I love awesome people.
Yeah.
I love
awesome gays.
Yeah, I love awesome people. Yeah.
I feel like that's such a special thing. I know for me, like, life gets lifey and to sit with someone who has 32 years of sobriety and just know that, like, it just gets better.
Well, it doesn't. Some days I'm like a newcomer.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I wake up. I've been in the hospital a lot this last year, and it got real dark. And I said, Lord, if you let me have another day, I'll be a better girl. And when I woke up in the morning, I thought, what does a better girl do?
Well, what was it?
So I've been speaking a lot since then, so I get to tell that story.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like you've been a speaker at a speaker meeting or just sharing?
I speak pretty often now. They're not sure how much longer I'll be doing that, you know. So
hopefully a lot longer.
Yeah. I just graduated from the cardiac lab, and I've been telling my clients, you know, I hate the cardiac lab. It's 90 days. It's mandatory. Heart doctor mandated it. And then when I graduated last Thursday, and they gave me a little certificate, it parallels our recovery. And I was like, yeah, now I want to do the optional thing. Now I'd like to come 30 days. And they said, oh no, there's a wait list.
Oh my God.
I said, I'm an alcoholic. There's no wait list, for alcoholics. I graduated and I got better in spite of myself. I think that's what happens for us in recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true.
And my get up's a little slow, but my giddy up's a lot faster now.
So going back to that 32 years ago, that first sponsor, was there a certain direction that she gave you where you were like, I'm just not going to do it? Like,
no, I don't think I was tough enough. I don't think I was tough enough to do that. I was really scared.
Yeah. There was a lot of treatment centers have kind of implemented these rules now that are not in the big book. Like, don't date in your first year and all of those things, but they're not in the big book. 32 years ago, is that what sponsors were directing people to do? Or do you feel like it did come from treatment? Like, I've heard that a lot. Does that make sense?
I think I needed everything.
Mm-hmm.
I needed what was in the meetings. I needed what was in the book, although I didn't pay attention. I remember they wanted me to read chapter 5. I must have been about 6 months sober. And I was sure that it said, never have we seen a person fail. And when I got up, they wanted me to say, rarely have we seen a person fail. And I thought, no, never means I have a guarantee, and rarely means it might not be me.
Yeah.
You know, so I was, I was one of those people that had problems. My sponsor had to get me to sit down and stay in my seat, stay put, come to the meeting 5. She did a lot of things that I don't think are in the big book about meetings, although we had the Strong Women's meeting is tomorrow night, and so I'm having the girls pick what they want to talk about, and I've forgotten what page it is. I think it's 5. I believe in the whole book, and so I think it's about 568 somewhere. It says, it talks about meetings finally and finding friends like we've never had before because they're there. And I found the best people in my life in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's very
Well, and then to circle back on that, in my opinion of, my experience is, I don't think the rehabs tell people to do that. I think it's experience, strength, and hope. So in my experience, strength and hope is dating for me is I cannot handle the emotions. So if I see that in my sponsees, I would direct them to maybe stay away from guys for a while until they have a little more time and they can handle it. So to me, I never thought it was the rehabs that said it. I just thought it was people that experienced that before.
Well, it's logical too.
Yes.
I think it's very logical whether you have a big book or whether you have a sponsor. It's logical. And now we have clients who think they're him or they're her or they're she or they're it. And I just always tell them the same thing. If you're a girl, go to a girl's house. And if you're a boy, go to a boy's house. But we really don't care. We just want you to be an alcoholic getting sober. We really don't care about the rest of it.
Yeah.
And you know what's so funny? When I got into the house, everyone was different at Yellowstone. So I knew everyone to maybe not knowing everyone and just Honey. And I got there and I started doing my thing where like, I'm gay, all this stuff. And you know what the house manager told me, which I love?
I don't care.
He goes, I don't care.
Yeah.
You're not gay here. You're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that was Ken. And I was like, oh, no one's ever told me that before. But he's right.
Yeah.
You throw all these other problems in there that don't really matter. And it's alcoholism that matters right now.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great.
Yeah. I know you don't care about my ex-boyfriend or my 4 husbands. Or
Yeah.
you don't care about that.
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah, you don't care about any of that.
No.
I care.
Right now, we do care about that.
Well, I was at CVS the other day, and I live at CVS. I'm an over-the-counter girl, and this girl was there, and she said, I broke both my toes, and I want to cry. And I said, this is CVS. You can cry. They have no rules. I said, I'm going to cry after dark. And she says, well, what are you going to cry about? And I said, well, My ex-husband, the love of my life, called me this morning and he wants to marry his doctor in the Catholic Church and he needs my help. She said, well, you can cry now. I said, no, I'm going to wait until after dark.
Why does he need your help?
In the Catholic Church, because I have to testify to some things for them to get married in the Catholic Church.
Did you say no?
I was going to say no, but my sponsor redirected that. You don't want to be the...
That is
so
funny.
unfair.
Well, over time you start to care about people in a different way.
Yeah.
Instead of yourself.
And I just don't want to interfere with any more of his life than he thinks I've interfered with.
Yeah.
Is it the one that I know?
Yes.
Aw, that's
Yeah.
nice of you.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about something that Honey told me one time. It was really good. And it really shifted probably my whole life. Was I went into Yellowstone and everyone has to get TB tested. And I never talked about this before, but I'm just going to say it. I really don't care. And she said, Jimmy, she was talking to everybody, but literally me. Only ask for the TB test. This is your direction. Do not ask for transmitted diseases. Do not ask for anything more than that. And then what do you do? What did I do when I get there? I said, can I get a HIV and everything test? And so they tested me. And that's when I found out I was positive for HIV and I was freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was waiting for me over an hour. I held everything behind. I literally came out of there crying. The guys were so nice to me. They don't know what happened, but I'm pretty sure they knew. And then I got taken to Honey's office and I go, Honey, I'm HIV positive. My brain starts going. And she goes, you're not going to die. You're not going to die from HIV, but you will die from alcoholism today.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter. You're not going to die if you don't take meds for the next week or the next month, but you will die from alcoholism if you don't stay here and work a program. And that was this last time. And I was like, you're right.
Is that why you told him not to get tested?
Well, it would have been nice if he'd have just followed the directions. Then all he had to worry about was staying sober that day.
Yeah.
But, it compounds the problems and it gives you an excuse to drink.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what the whole
That's
issue
why I
is.
wanted to bring that up. Is
Yeah.
she says that to everybody. But for that reason, for that day, she said it to me, to everyone, but I knew it was to me,
To you.
even though she wasn't. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But she says that to everyone because why would you want more problems? The point is when you're sober and you can handle more when you have more time sobriety.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, why would you want to know that your first week sober? Because then it's an excuse to go out.
Yeah.
And then once
And most people probably do go out
most
over
people
stuff
will
like
do that. Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought it was such a good thing.
And now with fentanyl, they don't have to wait more than a week to die.
Yeah. It would be minutes, right? Seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big problem right now. Okay, so then you being at Yellowstone, do you see more of that now?
Oh my goodness.
More and more.
Well, the radio tells us that there are 300,000 recorded deaths by fentanyl this year, but the unrecorded deaths is probably another 300,000 because families don't want to.
Oh.
They don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And we had an OD night before last, and one of the things we're learning about is we all carry Narcan,
Mm-hmm.
and I've run out of Narcan because of a couple of kids in the street, and we need to learn how. I think everybody needs to learn how to bring them back to life. One of the things you'll find out when people OD is they will tell you later they don't remember, but you remember.
Mm.
You remember if you help somebody. And so we're going to get some special instruction next week because one of our guys saved this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to find out exactly what he did so we can replicate what he did. Because we're going to see it.
Yeah.
You're going to see it here. You're going to see it next door. You're going to see it on the street because these kids, especially in the 30-year-olds in that group, because some of them will say, I've done it once, I've done it twice. Look at me, and I say, watch out, here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
because then it's the third time or it's the fourth time and it's over. So we have to have people like you and me out there who are trained to save lives. They don't even care. They think that the light switch is going to go off and come back on, but with fentanyl, it doesn't. It doesn't, and it's hard to convince people of that who are doing fentanyl. You know,
They're delusional to the fact.
well, newcomers are delusional, yeah, but it's very hard because fentanyl is it's a criminal disease, and we're going to see too much of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know a lot of families that don't even want the drug test. They know. Don't do it. I don't need the autopsy.
Right.
So,
that's correct.
Yeah.
And I think it's $386. I think that's right. Once you're in with the coroner to bail out the body, and some people don't pick up the body
Because of the price.
because of the price.
Oh my God.
Wow. Do you know what happens to their bodies?
I don't know. I think we know from the COVID what happens. You know, when they're not identified, they're not picked up. We know from the COVID, but
Yeah.
it's very serious.
Yeah. Do you know who's coming in to train you guys?
One of our clients, he has about 150 days, and he's not the first guy to save one of our guys' lives. We've had no one die at Yellowstone, but we've had to revive clients before. And we had a meeting last year. We were in the meeting, and on the other side of the door, this guy was blue and OD'd, and one of the guys in the group came out and gave him CPR and was yelling, "Call 911." So we did, and they came, and the kid's okay today. And the one who saved him is our hero. He's one of our managers now.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I do have to say something about that too, and you probably might agree with me. You know, at Yellowstone is the first thing you can do is take all the street mentality out, because you could save someone's life. If you think someone is using or you see someone using, you need to let someone know right away, because you could save that person's life. And many times people have been in the bathroom, because you can't look over everything, but you know what makes a place great is the community and the people in it that help each other out. And someone was in our bathroom using, and I banged on the door so hard, and I said, if you don't go downstairs and tell on yourself, I will go down and tell on you. And he went down, so then I wouldn't have to do it. But you know what? What if he OD'd in the bathroom?
Yeah.
And that's what I think, a lot, which you guys do that, is always save someone's life. And that's how you can save someone's life also.
Yeah, and you get to be a hero in your own life.
Yeah.
True. How do you separate the treatment world from your own
Oh,
program?
that's a good question.
I don't know, because our program is based on one alcoholic helping another, and that's really the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't know that I really separated. It's just that I'm involved, and so I'm as involved when I'm in a meeting as I am sitting here. I mean, I think we're compelled, especially over time, to have some kind of a message, and we either share that in meetings or with clients. Yesterday, we had a new girl come in yesterday, and she was having a panic attack, and at the same time, my son was calling me from Portugal, so I put him up so he could see her, and I said, she's having a panic attack. Can you help? And he's not an alcoholic. He said, I can help. I've had panic attacks. And, and I never thought of that before. Just help. Does somebody help? Because I think we're a very nonprofit. I'm not even on payroll. We're a real nonprofit, and so awful lot of what we really are, we're a message center for Alcoholics Anonymous. So I don't know that I see a whole lot of difference, except I have my own office. Yeah. And when I go to a meeting, I'm lucky if I can get my seat. It's harder and harder to get. It's harder and harder to get seats saved.
Yeah.
especially some of the meetings like I'm going to tonight, very hard. I wish they would revise that at Seal Beach because they let people save 4 seats.
Oh my God.
And so I have to beg and plead and grovel to get seats.
To get a seat.
I get my own office sometimes when I'm at work. I guess that's a big difference. But I told one of my staff the other day, I said, this is what I want done. He said, you're only in charge on Tuesday. I said, okay, what day is it? He says, it's Friday. All right, I'll wait.
That is fun. And you know what? I love that you said that because I feel like applying the principles you learned into your everyday life is why we go through all of this, because it helps every aspect of the life so we can help everybody, not even just alcoholics.
Yeah.
Like with me at the salon, not everyone that I do is alcoholic, but I treat everyone alcoholically, if you guys understand what I mean.
Love and tolerance.
Love and tolerance. I guide them. They don't have to be alcoholic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the Crossing is one of the very best meetings, not because I spoke there last month, but
Not because they asked you to speak.
but they have 400 or 500 people there, and they invite everybody, even people who have bad behavior today. And I always think somebody's not harming anybody tonight because they're in this meeting.
Wow.
So I really believe in an all-inclusive program. I think those people driving by badly need at least a 5-step program, if not a 12-step program, just to be better people when they drive.
Mhm.
And so I love the Crossing because they invite everybody.
That's
Where's the
true.
Crossing?
It's in Costa Mesa. It's on Newport Boulevard. It's a huge church.
And it's
the
on
one
Monday nights?
It's Friday night.
Friday night.
Mhm.
Friday.
The big cross right before the freeway ends on the right.
Okay.
It's a great meeting.
Oh, I've
We
never
used to
even
go there
heard
all
of
the
it.
time. Also, you know what
Because
I love?
of Yellowstone? Yellowstone brings their
Well, we're a
clients.
force there,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
there's
yeah.
about 400 people, and we're about 50 strong, and you
Okay.
can't get up and identify as Yellowstone without hearing the chorus.
Wow.
And once in a while, they'll have a speaker who we recently had a speaker who's into gangster rehabilitation, and he said,
Ooh, that's cool.
"Those are my people over there.
The Yellowstone
Yeah,
people?
Those are my people.
I love it.
I should have gotten sober there. You know, 'cause
Wow.
yeah, we're a force at the Crossing.
Okay, I have been to that meeting once.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was a speaker meeting, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, and there's
speaker,
a stage.
Mhm.
That's right.
Okay.
And then sometimes, which the time that I love, sometimes is when they have the all singing meeting.
Uh-huh.
And they bring in people that are in part of the group and they each play and sing songs about
What?
spirituality, recovery, whatever they want. I thought that was such a great idea. I love that. And they have it very rarely, but maybe every other month or something.
But they're very entertaining. They have some kind of entertainment, you
Yeah.
know, all the time. And you see people getting up with a year sober, 2 years sober, and they're back and they've got talent. I was telling you about the girl
Oh,
that I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
this last month. Now she has a lead in cabaret,
Wow.
and she's just over a year sober. She's 23 years old.
Wow. How do you stay so humble and God-centered when you're helping this many people every
She
day?
doesn't.
I don't
Just
think I
kidding.
She's got a big head.
No. She's actually she's tamed right now. She's
Yeah.
crazy, but
I'm a
like
tough
good.
chick on
She's
Saturday.
tough. That's what it is. Tough. She's tough.
That's not humble.
No, that's true.
Well, I had a girl come in this morning, and her sponsor brought her, and she started with what her sponsor was doing wrong. And I said, "And how much are you paying that sponsor to support your terrible ideas?" And she said, I'm just not going to stay here. I said, "No one asked you to stay here, but I want you to stay in your chair because it's one woman talking to another about how in the world you're ever going to get sober. That's what we need to talk about. I don't care if you stay or not."
And that's why I brought her on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I love that.
Yeah. That's what I mean. How do you stay so? How do you?
I don't think it's humble. I do a lot of. I'm easier than I used to be. I get scolded about that because I tell you what happened. I do a little more frothy emotional appeal than I should because the big book says that seldom suffices. But I've had a lot of love and respect over the years from people when I didn't deserve it, and so now that I'm as old as I am, I'm very old now. I see that side of it a little bit, and I try to find a balance Because on the other hand, on Saturday, I was so tough on Saturday. I said, you have just failed us, and I really want you to leave and go away. You're so lucky you have a bed. We'll just give it to somebody else. And I knew strategically he wouldn't go as soon as I said all that. So today he's apologizing to everybody. So I said, you got to apologize for your bad treatment here because we expected more. And I heard today he was apologizing all morning because alcoholics don't like to be told what to do.
Right.
So if you tell them they're leaving, they're staying. But I'm not as tough as I used to be. And we keep people now that we probably shouldn't keep. He's been with us 4 times. And I'm working right now on getting a guy out of jail that we've been working. I'm going to be a witness in his case because we loved him and he made some stupid mistakes. And we don't think it's what the court thinks it is, but I'm in court a lot and I understand how that operates. And so we're going to beg for mercy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's humility or strategy, but we know how to behave in a courtroom, and I teach the guys and the girls.
And you know what? They did come to my court.
Yeah.
And everything got thrown out the window because they said, as long as you stay at Yellowstone. And then I was part of that PC something.
Yeah.
And then I was in informal probation, but literally, like, I have nothing on my record. They came, they showed up for me. They taught me how to be a man, how to be presentable in court and around people I'm supposed to. Like, it was great.
I just mean, like, because I work in the industry, in the treatment industry, and there are people who they let it get to their heads that they've helped so many people, and they take credit for it, and we did this, and
I get more credit than I deserve.
But see, that response is
humility. Yeah, but I do. I have people sometimes. One of the guys did say to me last week, I really don't like you. I said, well, how do you feel about yourself? It's not a popularity contest, but I always get more than I deserve. I'm really aware of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because of that. I guess I stay the right size. I don't even know if I'm the right size. I have a resentment going right now about my puppy.
Oh my God, tell us the resentment about your puppy.
Well, what happened is we have a puppy next door. I was trying to get my 12-year-old puppy died, and so I'm in a lot of meetings, and so my puppy now doesn't have a friend at night, and so I'm looking, but we have puppies next door, and I'm thinking we have too many puppies, and so I send this puppy away, and then I don't realize that the puppy's going to cry and be so upset. And finally I went back to one of the sober living homes and I said, we need the puppy back just for a little while because I didn't realize it was going to be so hard. That puppy cries all day. And then we got into it because as soon as the puppy went, they were in love with the puppy and wouldn't give the puppy back.
Oh, no.
So now the fight is on.
Oh, no.
And I've got this huge resentment, because after 8 days they own the puppy and they won't give it back. And then when I insist, they think I'm a terrible person and I am not a terrible person. That puppy's been so heartbroken. So now I got the puppy back and now I've got people going, honey, can't you resolve this some other way? And I'm thinking, I've still got a resentment. I'll have to wait until later to figure out how to resolve it. I mean, when I was new, I could keep a resentment all year. Now I'm lucky to keep it all week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder now.
Yeah, we learn, well, you know more.
You can probably give me advice on what to do because this is a new resentment for me.
The puppy resentment.
Yeah. That's
my God.
That's where I am right now.
I love that. That's so cute. What is the best thing Patty O has ever told you about the program or about how to live life on life's terms?
Like an aha moment in a sense.
There have been so many of those, and some of them I really resented. Like I wanted to be the favorite girl, and Michelle wanted to be the favorite girl, and
Cody's mom.
Michelle wanted to be the favorite girl, and I was pretty sure she was a favorite. But what was worse was I'd come into the meeting. I'm here, and she'd be talking to newcomers, And I'm thinking, I'm here. I mean, she was the sunlight of my spirit. I got better when she was in the room, but I wanted to be the center of attention. I 20 years sober. I'm a big deal, right? But it wasn't to her. And I remember one night she said to me, "Here, the basket girl isn't here. Would you pass the basket?" I said, I'm 20 years sober. And she got up and carried her oxygen tank across the floor and passed the basket. And I
Oh my
thought,
God.
oh my God. So after that, I volunteered for all of the worst assignments. And the worst one commitment I had was the back row. It was terrible in my home group, but I just wanted to make it up to her. I loved her so much, and I knew I had been bad. But I'll tell you about that commitment in the back row. It was so terrible, and this was 5-6 years ago, and they had these cell phones, and I would go in and I would say, because I didn't want to do it. Could you just get them off their cell phones? Go away. Then I'd come back the next week and I'd say, well, could you just consider keeping some of them in their chair? Leave us alone. And then I remember going back a third or fourth time and saying, if you could just, would you just get lost? And I said, I hate my commitment.
Oh.
And they said, honey, this is your commitment. We'll behave better.
Oh.
Okay. So the back row, they behave better now.
Oh my God.
And I don't have that commitment anymore. I'm now the bell ringer. It took me 30 years to be the bell ringer. It's a big deal. I'm the bell ringer, but I see the back row, and they say we're behaving. And it's not the same people.
Yeah.
But the legacy.
But the legacy is there, and my home group is legacy.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is my home group.
Wow. That's so cool. I love that though. So Patio didn't even have to tell
She
you.
didn't have to say nothing. It's her action.
Yeah.
Well, she was just an inspiring. I followed her around like a puppy dog, wherever she went.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go. She was incredibly inspiring, and I wanted, when she died, I was there. I was there right up until the end. In fact, I went down to Mission Hospital where I got sober, and that's where she died. And I had about 75 sober sisters, and they had invited me, and I got that. They said, honey, what are you doing? I said, I just want to be closer to where she is. They said, well, come with us. And they took me in a little room about this size, and she was getting the last rites. And she looked at me and she said, I need you to call New York and tell them I'm delayed for Saturday night. And I started laughing, and she started laughing. And she spoke all over the world. And I'm laughing, and she's laughing, and everybody in there's like, what? And she was getting the last rites,
Yeah.
And she was more than I had ever known,
Mm-hmm.
I still think about her. I still talk about her. I'm talking about her right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And people, really gave me a lot of respect because I was one of Patio's girls.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one more question that Breezy loves to say.
You say it.
I don't know how you do it. You do it better than I do. What's one? Okay, let me try, because Breezy's good. What is one piece of advice that you can give a new person right now?
Be still.
Be still. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be still.
It doesn't work half the time. But just to be still. That girl in my office this morning, and I said to her, she said, I'm out of here. I said, sit down. And she sat down. I said, look at you. You're already trying to be still.
That's great.
It's a program of progress,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what she'll do next, but she's got my card.
But she was still for that moment.
She was still for that moment. Sometimes we don't, as alcoholics, we don't get that.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
don't get that. I'm getting that right now.
Yeah. Oh, it feels nice.
Yeah, because
Sitting.
Because you haven't
she
embarrassed
has a
me.
hard time sitting still too.
I do.
Yeah.
She's like me, and that's why she gets me. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time, and I love you so much.
Yeah.
And
You've saved some of my best friends' lives.
mhm. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and
Yeah.
meeting us.
And I'll tell you an old story that takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes, tell us.
This guy is down at the beach and he sees all of these starfish, and if they don't get to the water, they die. And so he's grabbing them one at a time and he's throwing them in the water. And this guy comes up behind him and says, "You're so stupid. You know, there's hundreds and hundreds of them." He says, "And you'll never make a difference." He says, "I will for this one."
Mm.
Wow.
And do you think that's what you do in your everyday life?
I think I've had the joy and the experience of doing it once in a while. It makes everything worthwhile.
Yeah.
Just doing it for you
Yeah.
makes it so worthwhile, and then you make it worthwhile for people. And then I get to be in a place like this where I probably don't belong.
Mm. Wow. That's the way to end
I know,
it
I love
right
it.
there. Thank you so much. What an iconic human. I love it.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening so much. I'm Breezy.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we are
Sober
Sober
Disclosure.
Disclosure. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Light Salon, Orange County's premier destination for expert hair color. At Light Salon, we specialize in creating stunning custom color transformations that highlight your natural beauty. Owned and operated by passionate, sober stylists, we bring authenticity, creativity, and precision to every client experience. Light Salon.